I have to hit the intro because it keeps playing over and over again. I think it's a targeting thing, but let me hit the intro. Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, great. It only played once. That's awesome. Hey, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I got my good friend with me, Miles Johnston. It was a pleasure to meet Miles in person. You know, I said this at the conference.
Any stock you got in full disclosure now, sell it, okay? No. Anything in Gaia, buy.
Miles is one of my favorite researchers, along with James Bartley. But I just wrote a blurb about it here. I'll read it. I wrote, in this special edition of the Typical Skeptic Podcast, I'm joined by veteran UFO researcher and alternative media pioneer Miles Johnston, founder of the Basis Project, for a full debrief on the Full Disclosure Now conference. We unpack key revelations, experiences, and the latest testimonies related to Black projects, SSP programs, alien tech, programmable life forms, and the intelligence transfer sequence. Miles, best known for his historic work with the Irish UFO Centre, and he's the producer of the British Basis series, shares exclusive reflections behind the scenes intel gathered from this landmark event and the disclosure community. Whether you're deep into the Peasemore underground military base story, MILABs, or cutting edge whistleblower revelations, this will be a must watch. And I'd like to give a big warm welcome back to the show. Miles, thank you so much for coming back on. How are you?
Well, I was busy selling stocks in Full Disclosure Now. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
well, this is like our job. We gotta get the conference. Sorry,
Rob. Sorry. I've been to a UFO. I've been to a Full Disclosure Now conference, and I bought these books by Brad Olson. Somebody called Laura Eisenhower.
Oh, I know her.
Yeah, and another one by this guy Brad Olson. Yeah, Brad, The Unseen Realms. I bought that. And another one by some guy, some idiot with a fancy name with a Z in it, about some pope. And another guy who's got a name like Duquette. Who's got these foreign names? Anyway, I bought all these books. I bought them all from some guy called Brad Olson. He was at some kind of show, but I mean, what am I going to do with all these books? I've got a much better idea. I think what I'll do is I'll just do this, you see. No, I tell you what, that Laura Eisenhower, she's trouble.
Why do you say that?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these books back. That Brad Olson, he doesn't have a clue what he's talked about. So that's got my laptop at the right height. I found a useful use for these books. Laura Eisenhower, she's brilliant. Oh, sorry, they were at the conference. Bloody hell. Maybe I've hurt their feelings. Brad. Rob. Jesus.
Well, Miles, how was coming to America? You've been here before. You were here for last year's event. You've been here for a lot of other events, right?
Yeah, I've been coming to. Let's see if I can get some more audio. Oh God, I can't do that. Can I get the audio? Yeah, I've been coming to the States since before you were born, mate.
I don't know. I was born in 1980. I'm not a spring chicken, you know.
Oh God. Anyway, it was a great conference. Rob, are we able to talk about those people that were hauled off the stage and that guy took the microphone and he annoyed everybody? No, are we able to talk about it?
Yeah, we can talk about that. I think it was something that the audience needs to know about. So I'll give a little backstory. So Randy Kramer was hosting.
Oh, that's who the guy is.
Yeah, he's a big name. I mean,
by the way, I bought this T-shirt at the conference. Isn't it fantastic?
That is nice. What is that?
It's something very complicated by a lady who's managed to tattoo every part of her body, which is stupid. But anyway.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I'm supposed to interview her soon. Yeah.
You talk away. I've got coffee to drink in the
Well, so
basis
what
mug.
happened, guys? So
I didn't bring any of these things.
Yeah, but people that don't know what happened.
People, let's get things into context here. We set this appointment up. I thought it was 5 o'clock. I've been trying to contact a Marlborough College to have Brad Olson over here in the UK and some guy called Kramer.
Randy Kramer.
Yeah, you mentioned his name. Randy Kramer. He's a disruptive influence. Sorry, I've got Randy Kramer here. He's just taking the microphone away from me. I can't. Randy, would you leave the mic alone? Is that too subtle for people?
That was so funny. For people that don't know what happened, so there was an ET artifacts and like ancient aliens panel, and Randy was hosting it. And some girl was telling her story, and Randy kind of just cut her off, and then she went storming off the stage, and then that caused Yemi from Farsight to go off on Randy, and it was like this big like drama, thing. But like, I think it would get more views to the conference. I think it gives the conference a little bit of gossip, and I think everybody's okay now. I don't think anybody's really heard about it. I don't know.
Well, I think what happened was because the same person was told to leave on the night we all had a celebration at the end of the conference. She caused a storm and a row off stage, so to speak. It wasn't on the stage. This is behind the scenes, and Ida had to tell her to leave. I only caught up on the whole scandal when Ida literally told her to get out and go away from the final little dinner, the dinner that we had in the penthouse. So that continued on till the very end of the conference. And like everybody, they look very nice. But people need to know that this conference has had a hell of a lot of attempts by various people for people not getting there. I was prevented at Gatwick Airport. I was literally told, "Sir, I think you need to go to that line over there." I missed the plane.
Oh God!
So an asset of the dark agency maybe lose my flight on a Monday. So I couldn't fly till the Tuesday, which means by the time you fly and do all that, I didn't get into the conference on Wednesday, which was a good idea because I was speaking and closing the show on, I think, the Friday last year. I had to stay in a hotel at Gatwick. Quite a few other people had problems, I think, as well last year. So this is when people were testing the event. So this time they used a different strategy by getting people into the event and then to start. I mean, I have to say that I think day 2, when they were doing the witnesses on the 2020 Mars thing, had a stage full of about 12 people. The whole width of the stage was full of people. There were several people on that who are doing what they call copycat experiencers. In other words, they pick up a few buzzwords that people use in that given type of experience. And then they come on stage and they say, "Well, I've been to Mars and back, and I was here and there, and I remember the way the reptilian aliens and the grey reptoids and the non-grey reptoids and the insectoids and the arachnids all attacked me, and they appear in my dreams and turn up in my washing machine." Those sort of things. When they come up with that and they just string off, I better not tell the evil cabal how you can spot one of their infiltrators. But essentially, there were a number of infiltrators. I mean, a lot of the stories that people come up with, which you should never believe any of this stuff. Just say, "Well, okay, that's what people are saying." Don't believe anything. Okay, but don't be disrespectful. But when you can spot a fake, you've got to blow the whistle on that. And I think that's what Randy was doing. However, Rob, Randy is not somebody noted for his kindness, soft-spoken nature, and kindness towards people less fortunate than himself. Rob, is he?
I don't know.
You don't?
I don't know him well enough. I know I've had him on my show once or twice, but I don't know him personally, so I can't really comment on that. You would know him. You might know him better.
See, you're doing the way it should be done. Look, I really don't think that what you're saying is appropriate. The other way that you should handle a situation when somebody hogs a microphone is fade them out.
Yeah.
In a Q&A, when you have somebody who decides to make a statement as opposed to ask a question, those are dead giveaways. A panel discussion, a Q&A is not about you talking about your personal agenda, right? Now, if you keep it brief, that's different. If you want to make a short thing and ask a question, that's fine. Anyway, sometimes the only way to do it is take the microphone off.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
I want to say about how generous Brian is. Brian is an amazing person.
Yes.
He helped me get to this conference, and I know he helped other people too. And I know he's sunk a lot of money into this conference, and I feel like
he sank a hell of a lot into the other conference, and he had a lot of speakers there. And I don't want to quote figures, but the bottom line is it's very gracious of him to pay, for 4, 5, 6 days in a hotel, maybe 7 days in a hotel, in a very expensive hotel. I have to say, I've never had such expensive beer in my life other than in Norway. You get a wee can of beer this size, the size of that mug, a little can of beer, that's $10.
Yeah.
You'd buy 3 6-packs for that here in England.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to go to
maybe 2 6-packs. But one can costing $10, and $10 is effectively £8 or something, or £9. That's a hell of a lot of money for a beer, a full beer. And that's a lot plus tip. That's a huge amount for even a hotel beer. And it's a very from a perspective of the England or the UK, America is very expensive now, and it's never been like that before.
Yeah, Miles, I don't drink a lot, but there was one point where I went to the bar and I got a drink for me, and I think I got a drink for Gina, and they told me, they said it was $26. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, $26 for 2 drinks? I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'll be broke if I keep doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a result, I just didn't drink. Apart from, there's different tastes of beer and all that. But I mean, that's unbelievable. And the point is, if that's what they're charging for 2 beers, what Brian is being charged is phenomenally expensive.
Yeah.
It's a great hotel. They are upgrading it, but it's not a hotel where a beer, a little shitty little third of a pint of beer costs you £10.
Yeah, I agree.
That's including the tip. I mean, the tip as well. And you can pretty well guarantee the staff aren't on rates to buy a beer like that either. And the staff are wonderful. The waitresses and the guys at the bar is wonderful. It's got a great pool. It's got the great beach. But the buffet, which cost a fortune, was cold. I mean, you don't need a cold buffet.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't be bothered to light the. Like, I don't want to. I'm not being picky, but the point is, when you're spending a huge amount of money, and Brian is, pulling the ticket on this, I think they're not. I don't think they're playing pool on this.
Yeah.
Really.
I don't think they are either. Yeah, I agree.
But the point is that the quality of audience, and people have got to really understand this. UFO conferences are absolutely, forget it. All these UFO conferences, if I hear Roswell again, I mean, the UFO community, and this goes for the UK, UFOs are finished. They have no progressive, intelligent thought other than waiting for the next disclosure from the CIA. And that has been the greatest fatuous fiasco in show business of any kind. They have screwed up with millions of dollars, $50 million. I don't know how many $1 million. They've got people in shirts. They've got gobshites sitting behind. Hey, we're this, we're, bullshit. When you have known fake UFOs being paraded in front of Congress, oh, that's a complete fake. That's a fraud. That was dismissed like 25 years ago. And they're showing this to Congress?
Yeah.
Well, the deep accent saying, we're very deep. You're full of shit.
I love the American accent, Miles.
The point about this, we're not fucking around here.
Yeah.
You're an agency which is full of shit. You have got the resources. You've got all you can do is go around the world, fucking people up, screwing everybody over, and you can't put a TV show together which has got somebody credible that isn't on the payroll who can actually present a UFO picture which hasn't been dismissed by just about anybody who knows anything. I mean, it's not a no-brainer, this. So, just before I went there, I was at Kerry Cassidy's conference, and I was speaking there. Obviously, what I was saying at her conference is quite different to what I was saying at the disclosure conference, because we're full disclosure. We've got to, whatever happens at the conference, it's the fact that we say things, we've got to present things, we've got to take it seriously. And a lot of people are pushing a lot of money, Brian, so we got to get value for money. We're not going to mess about here. CIA have fucked this up so badly, right back to Jessup, right back to the original UFO or real or whatever it is book. He's a DVD German intelligence asset, okay? Blowing the whistle. We're going back to the very start, way back in the 50s, whatever hell it is. They've blown it. So it was not a shock when at Kerry Cassidy's conference, Simon Park said that the CIA are no longer. Now, this is what he's saying. I'm not saying it. I'm repeating what Simon Park said. And he was saying that the NSA are now going to do the disclosure, right? But I've got two books on the NSA: The Puzzle Palace, and the other one is a big. It's called a flag. The second book is a much bigger update. They've got detailed court testimony, but this is all court testimony in these books. This is not rumor of how the FBI sat in their thumbs while fake Hollywood productions were used as a production company used to make bad movies. I think one or two of them actually were a hit by accident. And these involved big movie stars, whatever. And it's nothing to do with the movie stars. It's just the fact that there was a front to get nuclear triggers for atom bombs, nuke triggers. They're the things that make the thing go bang. And they got these triggers out of the United States using front companies. The FBI knew all about it. These are in the books, right? So all these nuke triggers get smuggled to Israel using front companies. And another great part of the book is that the No Such Agency is so good at its own internal security. We're really good at our internal security here, right? Now, let's not talk about MI5 and MI6, which are fronts for the Rothschilds. And Westminster in this country is run by German secret intelligence. They're the people who tell Parliament what to do. That's the back door for the World Economic Forum, the UN, and all that lot, right? So we're not saying UK good, USA bad, and incompetent. If you want incompetence in Britain, they just do it with a better quality accent. Okay, that's the only difference. Now, the point about it is that Simon Parks is saying that the NSA is now in charge of this. We'll have to see how they're going to handle it. But one way of handling it is not using known fake images to tell these starving little people who come up and says, "Oh, please, we want disclosure." With the Full Disclosure Now conference, we're hoping to get a bit more than that kind of crap.
Yeah.
Which is why it's very important that the disclosure movement does not depend on government agencies who've been lying to you for the last 100 years to tell the truth all of a sudden. So that's the bottom line. You're not going to get bodies who are compromised. You've got aliens in their bases. That's the whole point. That's one of the points about what I was saying. It's what other people have been saying. They have been completely involved with bad aliens screwing us over for one reason or another. And you expect these people to come up and say, well, we've lied to you and we've screwed you over, and hundreds of thousands of humans have been taken for food or control. And then we've got the injection thing, and autism is rising through the roof. And that's so that the autistic children of today will go into the cyborg armies of the straight in, plug in, barely no implants needed, and away you go. Oh, and the other little thing is, the rest of you people, we're going to starve you out and kill you at a profit, and maybe organize a couple of fake earthquakes and blow up this or that, causing doom and destruction. Meanwhile, I couldn't fly out. Now, why could I not fly out on my British Airways 777-200 sitting at Tampa Airport? Now, why could that not happen? I walk in and my mobile phone is on a thing called United States of America, Florida, Tampa time, right? Okay? That's the thing called a clock. It's on the phone because it's in the United States of America, and it's doing a thing called telling me the time where I am in the United States of America. So, Rob, what would you expect when I walk onto the plane to sit down and fly away using the plane to take off from Tampa Airport?
It would switch back to British time, right?
It switched back to British time in the plane. The problem was that the plane still thought it was sitting on the runway at London Gatwick. Now, the problem is, if you're programming your navigation computer to fly to London Gatwick and the plane thinks it's still at London Gatwick, it ain't going to take off. I'm not joking here.
Wow, this is crazy. Wow. It seemed like,
as soon as I got into the plane. So it took 45 minutes to an hour for them to reset the plane's guidance system so it would suddenly find it wasn't on London Gatwick's airport. It was sitting on the runway in a place called Tampa, Florida. Whoa, that was a big thing. I'm being serious.
Can I tell you something weird that happened to us, Miles? When we were leaving Florida, we were both tired, and we were trying to just get home, and we had a long drive. It was like 17 hours for me, and then Gina had to drive another 6 to 8 hours up to Ontario. And as we were leaving Florida, it seemed like, we had the navigation set on the GPS or whatever, and it wasn't ticking down. Like, we would drive for, it seemed like a half hour, and only 2 or 3 minutes. It was like we were caught in a time loop. You know what I mean?
Well, if you've got very heavy cloud layer, you're not going to get data from the satellite.
Yeah. So something even weirder happened.
That's my feet on the ground. Logical explanation. Come on, Rob. Don't think of the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, but something even weirder happened, and Matthew Mornian noticed this too. We noticed that the town of St. Pete's or St. Petersburg seems to be repeating itself. Like, for example, if you ask Matthew about this, he'll tell you he saw the same guy crossing the same street at the exact same time the next day. Or we saw the same car turning around the same street corner around the exact same time the same day.
That's very important, Rob. What you're describing is very, very important. That's somebody else. giving you a signal. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies here, right? You've got to pay attention. I think those were reality effects. Now, I actually told they're not stewards. What do they call them now? Pursers or something? What do you call flight attendants?
Yeah, flight attendant. Yeah.
I told her, look, the Atlantic region. I told her, look, the poles are moving pretty fast. The magnetic poles are moving. Something is making the magnetic poles shift, moving towards each other. Now, the last count I saw was they're moving towards each other by 1.5 miles a week. Okay? So in the space of, a week, they would have moved 10 miles. So in the space of a month, they've moved 40 miles. In round figures, that's moving, right? Now, that data was maybe 4 or 5 months ago. So that also means that because they're moving away from the Atlantic Ocean onto the other side of the world, i.e. over Asia, and they're moving towards Russia, but they're moving effectively, the two poles are moving towards each other. From the Antarctic, the magnetic poles left the Antarctic, and it's the North Pole is heading towards. They're both basically more moving towards Thailand in round figures, right? In round figures. That means the Atlantic Ocean region, North and South Atlantic, has got increasingly less protection with the magnetic field from external solar radiation and other things like that. Okay, so that means that a class 4 solar flare will have the effect of I'm illustrating the point here. Well, a class 4 solar flare, which would have very a nominal effect, has a much higher level of effect, like a class 7. So our electrical guidance systems and things will be affected because they don't know what the hell if they're overloaded, stuff like that. We also got hit with a Schumann resonance, or a Human, whatever you call it, resonance. It went way up, causing a lot of people to have problems, in their brains. You see, because we're electrical beings, that's affecting us that way as well. Wow. So I mentioned this to the head steward, and she said, "Well, at the end, when we get back to when we land, do go to the pilot and have a chat with him." So I relayed this thing about the north-south thing of the magnetic field. Just as we landed, there was no need for me to go and have a chat with the pilot. He sent a simple message back. They're aware of that.
Wow, they're aware of that. Wow, that's insane that they actually know that.
They have to fly their planes, and they have to fly them, and they have to fly them, and they have to do a thing called land them. Landing the plane, always very good, right? Not landing the plane and getting lost and crashing. And how many planes are taken off, and within 90 seconds, things go wrong. And I'm going to say this publicly. The two fuel tank switches of that horrendous that crash, it wasn't an accident. That may be a thing in the guy's head that went wrong. And he switched off the two fuel switches to that airplane. I'm not going to say which one, but that kind of thing. That's one of the little things about survival people. They say, "Oh, I've recorded all my survival stuff. I've got it all on my DVDs, and if I want to see how to survive or how to make fire, I can look them up on my CD and player or whatever." You're not going to remember how to operate the bloody thing.
Yeah.
So we have to sort of take things. I mean, I've been over dramatic here. I'm pushing a point probably too hard, but we're dealing with a full disclosure now conference. And Brian and Ida has put a huge amount of effort in, and Ida is doing what a personal assistant has to do with the chief executive. She has to do the kicking out the door routine stuff and sort things out, while the person who's, up top, he's doing his things, and maybe he's doing his crazy things, but she's got to deal with that. it's like George Lucas with Star Wars. You're doing episode 1, which is really episode 5, 15 years after you shot the first one. You can't change the plot in episode 1 because it's going to affect episode 3, which is really episode 1, which you did before you could remember, but you want to change them. So the crew has to tell the boss, you can't do that. That kind of a thing. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
The point is that it was a really good conference with really good, wonderful people, and it's a new generation of people. People keep reminding me that I look like some old git. You don't have to. You don't have to agree with that statement. But the point is that there's a lot of very talented people. Sean Bond, I did a separate chat with him. He's finding new stuff. He just has to make sure he doesn't contaminate evidence with his fingers and DNA from touching everything. When you're going to dig stuff out of the ground, there's procedures you got to do, and it's not a good thing when you're digging an artifact out of the ground and it's stuck in solid, like impacted earth, and you just sort of get your fingers and pull it away with a little bit of soil, and it comes out, as if it's just been put in there, and 5 minutes later you cover up and then you dig it out. That's not good. That infers the evidence has been planted. So you've got to pay attention to stuff like that. But you've got a lot of really good new people like yourself, Rob, who are waking up. They're sharp on your mind. You're getting stuff. And that's the way this is going to have to work. And don't expect the governments have completely failed us globally. World Economic Forum is saying, we're taking over. We're going to make you into 15-minute cities. You're going to do what we say. All of that echelon of government globally can walk around in their fancy suits while we, whatever, and they want us all to walk around in second-hand regulation issue, recycled plastic clothes or whatever the hell they want us to do. We are the people who have to do this, right?
Yeah. We got a comment from Susan Long. She says, when I got my car at the airport, my car clock was off by 5 hours. Next day.
Well, the point about Susan is, listen, I'm going to say something here. Laura Eisenhower and the divine connections of Susan recorded a song. Fantastic. Now, I'm a lapsed, non-confirmed Anglican Protestant from the north of Ireland, and I'm deliberately putting on a South Dublin accent there. People up north, the Black Masons. Well, they're all Black Masons, people up north, those Black Protestants, She did a really good rendition, in sync, word for word, with Laura Eisenhower, and that should be put onto a record and sold in there. It's brilliant. But the great rebel song about the Black and Tans down at Cork. Now, the Black and Tans were unwelcome introduction by the British Empire into the lower realms of the south of Ireland during the early part of the 20th century. And some people would have suggested that they behaved improperly to the local people in a way which was, shall we say, slightly distasteful. Now, I think the Lady Long and the Lady Eisenhower produced a rendition of what they call a rebel song, and it was in tune and very, very well performed to a wider public on the telephone, i.e. Facebook. Great, brilliant, wonderful. And I was sitting there right beside them. They did another song, but I was too busy interrupting them and said, look, do you want to do this properly and get it? So I'm fucking it up, but I didn't realize they were recording it. Anyway, that was good fun.
Wow.
Great
I
thing.
didn't know that.
The day of being absolutely fantastic. Everybody there. It's really, really, it's a wonderful thing that these guys are doing. And Let's see if I can get it.
Yeah. I didn't make it to the day of being. I'd love to see what you have. Casey Gunn says, I thought that was just a drink, the black and tans. No, it's a thing, Casey. It's it's a and then Susan says
no, it's not a link. No, the day of being has nothing to do with the longs are from Cork. Yes, Cork. That's where is it? It's just a wonderful time. I want to get the full picture, but anyway, you can put that up anyway. And I think Brian is absolutely furious that I put the lady dancing through the loop thing. He's anyway. It's good fun.
I got to speak up real quick about the dance party that was there too. There was a dance party on the third night that I went to, and it was absolutely amazing. They had a DJ, and everybody was dancing, and they had a costume party, and like it was great. Yeah, it was. Anchorhaven says she's going to Cork next month to meet Soma Ra. Like my friend Julia Anchorhaven. She's from around here. I think she lives in like the London British area. And then Soma Ra was there. I love Soma. Soma's amazing. She was a very nice lady. I was happy to meet her.
Well, actually, I just see that this wonderful crop circle appeared while we were away, and this is in Germany.
Wow, that's amazing.
Now that's a very complicated device, and obviously it's got Aztec things. So that's in Germany. So they can cut them here, but they'll appear somewhere else.
I think Brian.
Oh God, was that me seeing myself coming back on the phone? Yeah, that's a new crop circle in. So anyway, we're talking about this conference. Anyway, the day of being is really wonderful. I'm not going to get the picture, and that's a wonderful thing to go to. I, of course, being a red-headed Irishman, was inappropriately anti-sunburned, but I mean that goes with that. Yeah. And this is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I just think we need to get more support for Brian, and I think you guys that are watching, if you haven't purchased the live stream yet, you can still purchase the live stream. It's the replay. It's on Full Disclosure Live, or fulldisclosure.live. You can get all the interviews from the conference. You can see everything,
Well, I think the cost is very high. I mean, I don't know from your perspective, what Americans set up as on the can of beer, which isn't even a full can of beer, $10. That's too much. We said that earlier, but the thing is that there are other conferences around, and it has to be said that that's brilliant, and that was brilliant. That was very good. The point about it is that the other conferences which are talking about disclosure, and they're stuck expecting that the government's going to tell them. This is one of the biggest arguments that people have been saying. And the point about my presentation is to look for when they are disclosing and blowing whistles. They're not going to do it in a suit at a podium. There's a film out here called The King and UFOs. I think that's the name, The King of UFOs, I think. And it's a filmmaker here, an independent filmmaker, has done a very good film for ordinary people who've never seen the UFOs or whatever. And we've got to remember that we're all anoraks. We're people who are embedded in this thing. We've been doing it for ages, and we know all the inner details and stuff. But for ordinary, everyday people who do a thing called do a day's work for a living, I'm not saying that we don't do a day's work, but ordinary, everyday people who aren't aware of all these details. It was a very good film, right at ground level, and the basic pitch was to get King Charles to do the disclosure. Now, there's an awful lot of people who know an awful lot of things about certain families would say that maybe wasn't the best way to do it. But let's give a bone to these people. To quote Michael Myers, give me a bone here, for God's sake. if the King of England and Great Britain and the British Empire wants to come clean and say, yeah, we'll be dealing with these people, these things from different places and universes, and we've made a right hash of it, and we're giving away our population and mind controlling them to be all eaten up by the reptilian hordes. Or he may have other ways of putting it, but if the king, let's give the guy a chance, if the King of England would like to disclose the whole kabang, you can't be half disclosed, you can't be half wet. Okay? If the King of England wants to address the people and the Commonwealth, and I think you people in America are still technically part of all this.
I think so. I think you're right.
Maybe that would be a good thing. A non-political leader of the world, the King of England, who should not be kowtowing to a bunch of croits who run the World Economic Forum. Oops, did I say that? Oh dear, Rob, have I said something wrong? Well, I mean, why not? That's a little film made by a guy here in, I think, Christopher. It's worthwhile having a look at that. I was there with the beautiful Barclay. What's her name? She has a show on one of the channels, and they ran this in a private theater just south of Oxford Street about a month ago. What's her name? Barclay. The guy she's called Barclay, but the announcer, who sounds like Jimmy Church, calls her Barclay.
Elizabeth Barclay, is that her name?
Elizabeth, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I think
she's
so,
a nice
right?
girl, and she is very switched on. She was introduced into the UFO thing. She had a UFO experience while in Los Angeles, and she had her experience, and she does a very nice show with the big glasses on. She's a very good presenter. Does a very nice show. She's even had me on, for God's sake. You see the thumbs beginning to come, and the cat. You see the cat's looking disapproval. Do you see that? Do you think the cat's looking disapproving?
No, I love the cat. I think the cat fits in well. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah. So
I don't know how you carried that there. How you got that in there?
Don't carry it. It takes 4 people to lift that, which is why there was a competition at my local pub where it sat as a novelty. Lots of novelty things in my local pub, like all sorts of things. And, there's no way that when a few men have had more than one glass of intoxicating liquor that they would think they could lift that by themselves, one person at a time. So that's a little bit of it makes people laugh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the main thing is, Rob, what do you think about each day of the conference? I missed Draco's presentation. I really want to hear that guy. I gather his home was washed out in the thing, but he had a great house. But there it is.
Drake. The first day was really good because we had the first and second day we had Penny Bradley, we had Nathan Sizek, we had Drago Reed. Those were all really good presentations. I'm trying to think of who else was the first couple of days. Anchor Haven says Drago was the best. She says in the chat. They have a connection in the programs, her and him. But yeah. So
what do you mean by the program? Because he's got implants and stuff. I really like Draco. I really connected with him. I think he's fantastic. I think a lot of you guys are fantastic. You guys really are brilliant. I'm very honored to be asked once and to be asked back, and I enjoyed the hospitality. But tell people more about the conference.
Oh no, it was amazing. It was my major takeaways from it were just real disclosure. It was everybody's presentation was amazing. I think everybody brought their A game. And then everybody at night would gather around like last year, and we would all hang out. Like it was.
I'm going to see if I can get a better light. Keep talking. Yeah.
Oh everybody would have dinner, and then everybody would gather like around the beach and talk at night. It was just like one big family. Like, like if you guys are wondering about like Soul Tribe, that's definitely it. Like, you're definitely going to meet your Soul Tribe at this conference, and I feel I have to keep stressing this. Like, Brian and Ida are amazing, and Brian's fitting the bill for a lot of this. So we need to support him because he's trying to do something special for us.
Right.
Yeah. I really feel like Brian's trying to do something special, so we got to support his
I don't know how they met, but you can never fight the sun. The sun's coming right. It's just coming through us. See. So I think that Ida and Brian, for putting this thing together, they've made their choices. They've got their planning. They've got things worked out. And I think the rest of the community really needs to wake up that this conference, the quality of presenters, the level that people are talking at is way ahead of any UFO type event on this anywhere. And this is the bee's knees. They have a fantastic hotel. They have a fantastic beach, sunshine, Florida, easy to get to. I mean, I just jump in a plane, and apart from being put in the wrong queue and all that, but this is a really great second, and let's make it into a third and fourth event. I understand that he is thinking of Sedona and another place. He has mentioned about coming to the UK, and that is why I want to take this opportunity that I am planning to have a full disclosure now event. I don't know if I can use that title or whether that's a thing we use. I had James Casbolt on. He gave some very informed and very, very guarded messages. James, of course, has been in jail for a long time. That's been a holy mess. Let's not get into the details, but he's talking through a local, very, very wise, very smart guy called Bob Osborne in Cornwall. Literally, Cornwall gets narrow and narrower. You got the north coast and the south coast, and then they meet at a place called Land's End. There's a lot which has happened there, and people need to understand Zener and what Bob Osborne put together in a film and a book. I mean, you got everybody. The Nazis were there. It shouldn't be called the Nazis. You had the Nazi lair. The SS were doing all this really heavy duty stuff on energy lines and ley lines. They were better at extracting energy from the Earth's energy lines as any of the other archaeology people. This is where archaeology, the Nazis, aliens, Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, the technocratic movement, the Fabians, the Fabian group, which is controlling so many politicians, it runs the BBC. I shouldn't say it runs the BBC. That agenda is the agenda that is happening through the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. This goes way back to the start of the 20th century. And where James lives at St. Ives, and where Bob has got involved with this, this is the real meat of the agenda that we're dealing with here. And everybody needs to get their noggin, their brains into background, who this is, where this has been coming from. And this goes way back into the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It goes back to the 1700s. James Casbolt, 10 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, 15 years ago, was given a document, a cuneiform script, very long writing and scribbly text and stuff, ye olde, going back to the 1700s, about an agreement between the Illuminati. I don't want to qualify it too detailed. The Illuminati and the reptilians on a contract to be able to produce eyes in fake humans, which didn't show the reptilian slit. They had trouble making the eyes so that when they walked amongst us, they didn't give their game away with a slit. That's a document highly encrypted, where there's encryption in the slope and the angle and size of letters. It's very important how you decode that. That kind of thing is where a lot of this goes back to hundreds of years into the Middle Ages. And that's why I mentioned in my presentation a guy called Chris Thomas, who outed that the Valon arrived here relatively recently, and then they did back-in-time technology to place stuff in Egypt and the so-called Sumerian stuff, the whole Nibiru fake thing. Nibiru is not from this twin sun system, it's from the Valon system, which is the sun that wanders between that. But I'm not going to go into the detail of that, but that was the point. The arrival seems to be relatively recently in actual time, and then what they did going back in time is another thing. And the other thing was that I was talking about was a woman who has survived. She died at sea as a cartographer working through the maps of the ship that she was in. She died, went to a facility, was taken through maybe the false white light. She managed to survive and execute intelligent functions when she was dead, saw how the whole thing worked, and worked out there were things that she didn't do and another thing. And the key thing she said, and this really, really hit me hard, she said about the grid. You'd be gridded. There's a grid, and she got across this grid. If you get it wrong, and the node you go to on the grid, you fall into oblivion. And what happens there is another thing. Okay, that's her statement. She was then able to jump into a pod, which was guarded by Egyptian-type guards. Those pods were your only way back here. The pod brought you into what you would go into then, a baby in a woman's womb, and that's how you get born. So those guys have control of who gets what and how you're born. Now, that's a big story. But when I mentioned this in my local pub, there's a guy recognized the term, and he says, that's being gridded. Now, when somebody randomly knows about a very, very precise detail of something that happens between when you drop off and when you come back, that's a big deal. And this is where the disclosure has to go. It has to go back to the vulnerable areas where we all die. Now, Rob, I know you pay taxes.
Yeah.
Because that would be dishonest not to pay taxes. Also, at that joke, there's two things in life, death and taxes. Right. Well, we all go through that. Now, the more of us that understand the process of when you die, more of us. Now, one of the things that John Irwin was saying, he was taken one step beyond death. Max was taken beyond death twice. So this is a signature that when we die, and we've got to be able to send controlled raiding parties in to see what's really going on when that happens, and bring that knowledge back here so we understand fully when we do die, we have got things to do. Now, one of the things which happened with a lot of the people I was working with the pirates, I called it a bounce back. There's a wonderful woman called Mary Helen Hinesley, and she's American. She had a car crash, and she was standing.
I know her. Yeah. Dr. Mary Ellen Hinesley. She's a doctor, right? Yeah, she's amazing.
She's amazing. She's a cockle-doodle-doo, fantastic. She died and she came back. I call it a bounce back. And I noticed that when we were doing this pirate thing, we had a number of people who were bounce backs, people who died and came back to do this, a number of them. So something happens. So if we inform ourselves, really, we've got to get that information so that when we die, we can do what this woman did. She actually, when she was a bloke when she died and she came back as a woman, she knew about not going into the queues, about being deprogrammed, about being then got the Egyptian guards allocating for her pod, and then she would be put into the pod, and that pod would go to a pre-allocated baby where she would then be born somewhere in some environment somewhere, and that was the way back into this realm. We've got to have more control over what's going on there, because right now we have enemies who are controlling that, and they can figure out where to put us when we die. So we've got this is the bee's knees here. So if we get better control over what happens when we pass on and can do things, one of the things I noticed was a lot of the people who died seemed to die so they could help from the other side. So we could do our radio stations on this side. I'm saying, based on what I've learned in that process, is we collectively as a disclosure movement must get more acquainted with what happens when you die so you can be a much more effective person on the other side. Now, that's what happened with Max. When they were trying to retrieve Max and this is the 9th anniversary of Max's assassination death.
Wow.
And Stuart Sverdlow has been on tape saying he knew what was there. He was there. I'm not saying he was there, but I'm saying, well, he could have been there, but he was in photographs. But Mr. Stuart Sverdlow, I'm saying this publicly, come on and tell us what happened. If you want to be on basis, you're a brilliant man. You've done the Montauk stuff. You've done a fantastic presentation at the UFO Congress, I think 2000. An excellent presentation. Okay, the cat's out of the bag on this. What do you know? What can you say to the wider community, Mr. Sverdlow? Because you sent a message to me indirectly, not saying my name, that the idea that Max was going to rejuvenate it that night when he died for the second time, the idea that he was coming back isn't going to happen. So thank you, Mr. Stuart Sverdlow, for sending that message. But maybe it's time to tell people a lot more, if possible. Now, he may be doing stuff like that on his private membership lock-in that he has on the expansions.com website. But now it's the time to come clean in the open. We're looking full disclosure here. So that's my to
Miles. One person I noticed was at the conference that people might not know was Sarah Adams. I think she got added late. And, I got a chance to talk to her. She was showing me about social media. Because I told her that I just got my audio podcast demonetized, which I did. It was like a huge thing. Like, I was on vacation and I got a notification that my audio podcast was demonetized. And I was like, fuck, man, that's 90% of my income. Like, my audio, for people that don't know, audio pays way better than video. You know what I mean? So if you can get your audio podcast going, it helps a lot. But they demonetized me, and I was telling Sarah Adams, I was like, they demonetized my audio podcast. She's like, you're going about it all wrong. She showed me her TikTok, and she does these TikTok shorts and YouTube shorts where they get like millions of views. I was like, holy shit. I was like, how are you getting that many views? She has amazing views. She gets like hundreds of thousands, millions of views, Sarah Adams. Like, it's pretty impressive, I mean, I know, I don't know how
that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Sarah, and let's be very clear about this. All of these people, Max, James, Sarah, a number of unnamed people, well, Dave Marrow, others, these people were all trained, or amongst their training was at Burnworthy Manor in, I think, Somerset in England. It may not be Somerset, but it's certainly the south of England. It's near Taunton. Anyway, Burnworthy Manor is where it's said that they were trained in all of these things. Now, Dave Marrow, who was the guy who was hulked out, he actually is in a small section of the Vice documentary about the killing of Max, the TIs.
Yeah.
And he's in there. They were at my conference in 2016 when Max didn't turn up because he was dead. And they shot a hell of a lot around that conference. They were shooting like mad. Interviews. That was for Vice. Practically none of that. Very, very short clips of all that, what they were showing, got reached that documentary. So they interviewed Sarah and they interviewed Dave Marrow, and all of these people were part of that. So, I mean, I've made a general thing. We don't have time to have hissy fits and tantrums over this. It's too important. We can have our disagreements. We can shout and yell at each other and throw our toys out of the pram. We've got to focus on the primary objective here, and that's find out what the hell happens, what the heck is happening when we die. We have no control over that, but it's now possible that we do have control over that if we can coordinate. And this is the point that I was making about Stuart Sverdlow and James. During that attempted retrieval, I have been informed Max was actually with a lot of Knights Templars in this other domain. And the individuals who were trying to get Max to come back entered this meetup. Now, this is on a basis, I don't know the name of it, but it's in there somewhere, and it should be on basistv.com, because I'm not loading everything back up onto YouTube. I'm using YouTube as a mechanism to distribute to Rumble and BitChute, which we can't even view. We can't even look at BitChute here in the UK because of this new terrible situation we're now here in England, in Great Britain, the British Isles. The point is that this brings the Knights Templars in. He was at a meeting with those guys, and the request was made, could we bring Max back? Max, according to their narrative, Max did come back. He was standing in the room where he was lying dead, and he made a conscious decision, well, a very wise decision, not to come back into a realm where his murderers and poisoners were there. So he is out there with the Knights Templar. Now, I was made a Knights Templar around about 2000 in approximately, it was at the castle, it was in the church at Windsor Castle. And the evidence is on that, when I decided to go in there and see what the hell was going on, I found that I wasn't with people that I would feel I would going to be very happy with, and I left. So that's that on the line in public record again. So, Rob, tell us what else was at this brilliant conference.
It was amazing. Like I said, at night everybody would gather. We had the speakers. We had the nice dinners at night. Everybody would gather at dinner. I'm trying to think. We had the beach. I was there 3 days early, and because the girl that I went with, she wanted to go 3 days early, so I got a chance to go to the beach a lot, and I got a chance to go to the pool a lot, and I got a chance to go to the hot tub. There's and that was amazing for me because I hadn't taken a vacation since last year, since I was at the conference, and I really desperately needed a break. But
you do need a break, yeah. I need a break. I haven't had a holiday in years. It's always working holidays, but anyway.
Someone mentioned the Tesla bed. Did you get a chance to lay on the Tesla bed that was there?
I didn't, but I have to say that that's a magnificent antenna. Now the Tesla bed. There's the basic principle of a Tesla coil is you have one coil, but the point about it is it's wound oppositely. It's not a straight coil. It should be a straight coil and then wound an inverse winding. That's the whole point of making a Tesla coil, right? So you're transmitting a scalar energy field and not a pure magnetic electric field. That's the big deal. The coil spins up one way and then spins back down the other, right?
That's interesting.
So you do what's called what they call non-inductive or fields. That's the point about the little spirals, the triple spiral. The coil the spiral is round clockwise and then anti-clockwise back. Each thing is wound clockwise and anti-clockwise back within the same area. That's crucial to what they're doing with the Hadron Collider. They're using two opposing fields in the same space, which produces a scalar energy field. I got a bumblebee in here now. And that's very important in terms of the physics they don't like you knowing about. Okay? Yeah. Scalar energetics. Colonel Tom Bearden wrote a hell of a lot of stuff on that in a book called Energy from the Vacuum. It's a big, thick book. Energy from the Vacuum. Tom Bearden from chinery.org. Okay? In that book, they explain how the fundamental equations of electrical theory was banjaxed near the end of the 1800s to completely screw us over into the 20th century on how we generate electricity. So when people talk about, oh, it's physics we don't know of or all that, no, that's a load of bollocks. We do know the physics. That's how you get pulse plasma stuff and translight warp speed stuff, right? Okay? Yeah. It's in the physics that they do not want us to hear about, because that means you never need to pay for your electricity bill ever again. So-called free energy. And that's what a lot of Tesla stuff is about. But the Tesla stuff has got a distinct ring of the Tartarian stuff that happened and was suppressed, and a lot of the building infrastructure is still there. So this is why something seems to have arrived to shut all that down and bring us to the current state of where we're being farmed and the World Economic Forum and all these things. We have got to work around that situation if we're going to survive this.
Yeah, I just wanted, you asked me about the conference. I wanted to add some amazing people who had amazing tables. Like, so first one I would say was Marble Bliss. I bought a couple things off her. I bought a pair of alien earrings from my friend Chastity, because me and Chastity have been friends since 2022, and they were like $15. So I was like, she mentioned she wanted them, so I got them for her. And so I bought some Florida water soap from Marble Bliss. That's Stephanie. And then the Jacobs had a nice table. Chris and Joanna Jacobs. They have tower busters and a lot of energy devices and orgone. Then the three tables in the back that my friends were, Matthew Morning had a table. He was doing sessions for people. Gina Virginia Casella had an amazing table. She was giving away free books, and she was giving away gemstone readings just to get her name out there. And then also Amanda Joan of Hart had a nice table as well. She was doing I think like massage work for people and prophetic readings.
But
and
that
stuff.
was a Tesla thing. I think she left me home, or to the along with
Yeah, so there was a lot of interesting like tables. And
Sean Bond had a whole table full of stuff and his artifacts and this skull and everything else. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
really incredible work, these people.
Yeah, it's like you said, Miles. It's like a new generation. Like, I don't think you'll see this crowd at Contact in the Desert, because it seems like Contact in the Desert.
Forget Contact in the Desert. I mean, with all due respect, Contact in the Desert was a relaunch of what they did in the 50s. What they were doing in the 50s. Up in, was it Big Rock or Giant Rock and all that? That was amazing. And that was all shut down. But it's that kind of thing that Bob Brown experienced. There were thousands of people up there. Thousands. Amazing. Yeah. And we haven't had that level of contact and an interface. I mean, so the Contact in the Desert thing is a great thing. And hopefully it started, but I mean, there was a thing basically about that conference that it was a reptilian feeding festival. You know, it was, and that's being very unkind. I never went to it. I felt it just didn't gel with me, and a lot of the big stars that were brought on stage for that were fraud, big time. And this is going to be very difficult and a major thing for Brian and Ida to make sure this does not happen to this conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree. Because I always talk about this. I've talked about this with James Rink. I said, you won't see any of the people that come on my show mostly, or some of them, but you won't see any of the people from the SSP crowd or the targeting crowd or the MILABs crowd on Coast to Coast AM. and you won't see them at Contact in the Desert, and you won't hear them on Coast to Coast. Like, they're totally, again, for some reason, there's like a split between the crowds. There's like our crowd and their crowd, and it's like,
well, no, the UFO crowd are out to lunch. They've had it. They are not developing. They are not picking up on new cases. They're not picking up on real research. There are people, little small groups, Birmingham UFO group here in the UK, and I think Cornwall UFO group, but they're all completely unable to move wider than lights in the sky or somebody, and they're looking for this milk trough of disclosure from the government. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
But they're not moving on. They're worse than train spotters. In the 1960s, as the trains were being, the steam trains were being decommissioned, and they were bringing in the electric and diesel trains, there's a whole lot of people taking numbers and taking film. Well, this is the 66688 from Edinburgh, and this is it going down the Northern Line through Chessington Junction or something. And they'd have another film of it going backwards, and then they'd have more film of it going a bit further down the line. These are called anoraks. We do not want to be ending up like that. But to be honest, those people taking film of trains going up and down a railway line, at least they were getting some degree of historical thing as they were being phased out. UFO community has not evolved. When I tried to get I've said this before, we needed to get John L. Walson's. If you get full spectrum cameras, if you're going to take pictures, get full spectrum cameras. They're relatively cheap. They're in the ultraviolet, they're in the visible spectrum, and they're in the infrared. Use two cameras. Use one with a polarized lens, with polarized filters. You'll get different data on a polarized filter than you will with a non-polarized filter. You've got to increase the visible range outside human visibility. If you get these full spectrum cameras that are available, you've got to get pictures in widescreen to use the full width of the picture and get a reference item in shot, like a tree or a lamppost or a house, which means you get a reference in terms of size to the object you're taking. Now, John L. Walston was getting pictures of big stuff up in Earth's orbit. I asked the Irish Astronomical Association, could you think maybe you guys are looking up at the sky all the time? Maybe you could get better pictures than that. They completely shut down on that, and they let slip. They cannot have the term Nachtwaffen in any of their literature or make any reference to it. They are held down, the astronomers, on least letting any of that information. So you guys out there, you have got to get those cameras, get those pictures, and get that data. If the UFO community could behave like that, I'd be all for it, but they're not.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And you're right, they're not evolving, They're not willing to look at like the military abductions or even some of the hardcore alien abductions that involve reptilians or, the targeting. The targeting's a big thing now, and they're not willing to look into like the Black Ops programs,
It's 10 years. It's over 10 or 12 years since Kieran Lee Perrin was here. And he started the thing on targeting and had a targeting individual group. It was he who was in that Vice documentary, but he turned and really put the knife in my back on things. But, if you're targeted and if you're getting V2K, don't be surprised if they turn on you. This is a very dangerous game, unquote. But there it is. But that's 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah. I agree.
And if Sarah Adams and people can get together, there was a terrible thing happened, very bad. Okay, very terrible. We said a lot of things, and everybody's at hissy fits and tantrums. Let's move on. We don't have the luxury to have these internecine discussions. That's how the enemy wins. We've got to face the enemy down. They are killing us. They're wiping us out. Wake up. Smell the coffee and get the data but you don't want to necessarily put everything you say and do on the bloody internet, people.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay?
Yeah.
Keep it off the internet. Keep your phones away from any discussions. Make sure you have nothing with any electronics you've got with you anywhere. And remember, they may implant you, so you've got to use something to screen you so you aren't actually being seen. We've got to really go deep dark on this. We can't keep telling people about things on these. That's one of the reasons why these devices, this thing that we're using, was you got the NSA and everybody else listening.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I was going to say, do you have anything else? We've been going about an hour and 15 minutes. Is there anything else you want to wrap up with, Miles, before we finish?
Well, this is a 15-minute discussion, not the full hour and 15 minutes. Thank you, Rob. It's really great. You're doing a really good job. And Brian and Ida are doing a heck of a good job. People really need to support that conference. And they need to adopt a different attitude. It's not like a Sunday revivalist meeting about somebody talking about bloody Roswell. They've got to put a new attitude in their heads of learning new things. I'm learning. When I go to that conference, I'm learning all the time. I need to learn. So many different people with new things. And I've got to keep my game up, okay? It's really very important. Thanks. Yeah, basistv.com. I need the subscriptions. That's where all the archive is. We're still trying to load stuff up. And Thomas, who runs Spacelink TV, he's been doing some fantastic work. He's got a lot of stuff on Mars, and he's spoken at several of the conferences. And he's done a heck of a lot of work on that site, and I really appreciate that. And the lovely Dean, lovely girl, Leanne Dean, somebody or other. Gosh, she's got triple name. Anyway, lovely lady. She interviewed. She had when I did the scan. I'll not go into that, but enough said. Thank you for putting that up and for doing this. And I'm gonna have another cup of coffee. But I tell you what, this girl, Laura Eisenhower. No, that's it. Eisenhower. Fantastic, really good people, and people are fantastic people there to be able to be on that stage. And hopefully I'll be able to get a couple of them over to the UK, and we're going to do a full disclosure now conference event next year, or some kind of a thing on that line during the year. That's why I pulled my conference in June, because it wasn't going to be hit with the right kind of people. I had too much interference, and I said, right, just pulled it. It's better to have so that's why there isn't a base of 2025 this year. But there's a new kid on the block who explained a great deal, and she's called Selena, and she's on basistv.com. Her presentation, very detailed, 2 parts in 3 hours. There's a lot of stuff on that, and she has a great deal to say, very precise new stuff, and you'll only get it on basistv.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Miles, and thank you to Brian and Ida for the conference and everybody that was there. It was amazing, and take care, everyone. Until next time. Thanks, Miles. Good night, everyone.